The understanding of one's own basic reality should be the fundamental purpose of education, and not the mere acquisition of information about the external world. So, what then is our mission? And on the positive side, Barber says, I have come to light the lamp of love in your hearts, to see that it shines day by day with added luster. And negatively, he says, and I think this is important, at least for me, I have not come on a mission of publicity for any sect or creed or cause, nor to collect any followers for any doctrine. You see, it's so easy for us to want to make a new religion out of Barber. I have no plan to attract disciples into my fold or any fold. He's stressed that, he's not attracting people into the Hindu fold, the Buddhist fold, the Muslim fold, the Judaic fold, Christian fold. I have come to tell you of this universal unitary faith, this inner self principle with a capital S, this path of love, this duty of love, this obligation to love. In the book that John wrote, there is further emphasis to this when he says, I do not want the impression to gain ground that I desire this name and form to be publicized. I have not come to set afoot a new cult. I do not want people to be misled on this point. I affirm that this Sai form is the form of all the various names that man uses for the adoration of the divine. No distinction should be made, for all divine names are all my names. Isn't that interesting? He's Jesus. He actually materialized for me in my first interview with him, the Sacred Heart of Jesus on one side and himself on the other. He is. Continue your worship of your chosen God along the lines already familiar to you. For all names are mine, and all forms are mine. There is no need to change your chosen God and adopt a new one when you have seen and heard me. I think that's something we should ponder on. So he says, realizing the Lord within you as the motivator. See, the energizer, the motivator is the task for which I have come in human form. I have come to give you the key to the treasure of bliss. The key to the treasure of bliss. I have come to instruct all in the essence of Vedanta, to protect the ancient wisdom and preserve it. So what is the fundamental seed of wisdom? Well, Howard's told us earlier today, knowing who you are. And it's just a question of wake up. Buddha talked about that, the awakened one. Wake up to who you really are. And ignorance, you see, is only overcome by knowledge. At least as an educationist I should say that. And that's true, isn't it? If you are ignorant, the only way you overcome your ignorance is with knowledge. And so Barber's telling you, you are God. You are not different from God. And he said, look, all must one day evolve to living Advaita Vedanta. I mean, we may have been here many, many times before, and we'll be here many, many times again, but until we begin to live as divine, we keep coming back, because we are creating birth, death, and we're still ignorant of who we really are. And I was going to tell Barbara this, but I'll tell you. You see, because I studied Latin once, and the word education comes from the Latin, which means educo, to lead forth what is already there. You know, you don't get a child or an adult and lift the top of their head off and say, well, we're going to pour in a lot of facts into you, and you'll be able to regurgitate all these facts, and then you'll be educated. No, the whole task is to almost remove the blocks of ignorance, so that from within, like a seed, from within, educo, comes this wonderful potentiality into actuality. And John Howie, in one of his chapters, called this what he called SOS, Size Open Secret. Because, you know, so Barbara has said this, hasn't he? Look, I have been at this ashram here in Puttaparthi with some of you for 40 years. And they've seen him every day, they've had darshan every day, they've had interviews perhaps, they've listened to him talk, and he says, you don't really understand? No, we're all at different levels, I suppose, but he says you are Shiva Shakti, the latent, patent, positive, negative, inert, alert principle. Be ever cognizant of the secret truth about yourself. You are God yourself. Do not be under the delusion that you have to search for him. My whole upbringing was to make God separate from me. I consider myself to be a creature of God. I had been created by this wonderful transcendent being that's present everywhere, but nevertheless I am a creature, and I begin to relate to the Creator. And so I busied myself with all the things that we do, prayer and penance and burning my bottom as a penance, but the things that we do, you see, in our search for God. And if I do all these things right, then at the moment of death, I'll be privileged to go into the presence of God, and I'll have a vision of God. And, you know, he'll either reward me or damn me for the way I've lived in this world. Isn't that the picture in the main that many of us have been brought up with? This is a one-off effort, this life, and make the most of it, because you're going to be judged on the way you live, and that'll be it. Barbara doesn't teach that. In fact, he says, and he said this to me personally, the whole cosmos is God. There's no separation. There's no boundary. All is God. And it's pleasing to me to read, and just recently I purchased a copy of Rupert Sheldrake's latest book called The Rebirth of Nature. And those of you who are interested in ecology and science and the greening of the earth could read that book. And here's a scientist now saying, all is alive. You know, that book is alive. The stone is alive. The trees, I mean, we used to think of things being animate and inanimate. That, you know, the trees are alive, the animals are alive, but a lot of these other things are dead. But consciousness is present within everything that exists. And I repeat what Howard said earlier, and so Barbara has reiterated, every one of you is an avatar. Oh, not me. Yes, you, Ted. You are an avatar. You are the divine, encased like me in human flesh and bone, only you are unaware of it. Divinity is present not only in Satya Sai Baba, you are all divine. Divinity is present in everyone. Now, that is the truth. Baba says this Satya, the truth. And we try sometimes to know with our mind and intellect, and it's impossible. You know, you can say to yourself, I am not the body, I am not my mind, I'm not my intellect, all that antakarana that they talk of. But to experience who I really am is beyond my mental capacities. You know the saying, if the truth can be spoken, it is not the truth. You see, you have gradations of truth. Vivekananda talked about going from lower truth to higher truth, to the truth itself, which can only be experienced. It's a sort of intuition. It comes from your heart. And that's why Baba often says, listen to the voice of God within. And it's true that the transcendent God whom we can only experience, you know, even the great Vedic scholars and the mystics in Christianity often spoke of the Godhead, which is neither male nor female, that question asked earlier. We have had a tendency, though, haven't we, in Judaic Christianity certainly, to the patriarchy, as though God was always the father, the male figure. Now, of course, this great emphasis, like in Sheldrake's book on the rebirth of nature, the whole of the earth is a living reality. It is the mother. It is the womb and the tomb from which we've all come and to which we'll all go. And so that idea of Gaia is the feminine principle. The whole world is sort of feminine in that sense. So the Vedic scholars talked of that being Nirguna Brahman. When the gunas there are no attributes, everything is in balance. But as soon as this imbalance begins, the gunas go out of balance, you get manifestation. And so you get what is called Saguna Brahman, God with attributes. And that word God that we use in the Christian tradition, and particularly the Trinity, we speak of the Trinity, is more the Saguna Brahman. And so in the Hindu tradition, when you have the Trinity, you're talking about Saguna Brahman. And so all of this manifestation begins in time, space, and it is especially true that God as the Godhead does not experience. God is love, God is truth. God does not experience truth, love, unless there is the manifestation which gives him the bodies in order for the experience to occur. And so that is why we have this wonderful manifest universe which is all emanating from God, and that God is experiencing through. Now this is difficult, I know, to think about, and sometimes we say, well, Ted, we've got to get on with our living, don't we? You're standing up there saying we're all God, but how do we live that? And so Baba has said, just kill the ego, deep-rooted within you, and you are free. No pleading thereafter. You remember that saying, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Because if you are seeing the Buddha, then you are creating your ego. Your ego is seeing the Buddha, and you're separate from the Buddha. And you've got to kill the ego, and you're one. And I think there's a danger even in our whole worship and that of Sai Baba that we could get to the stage, you know, we are fattening up our ego. and saying, well, look at me, I'm doing all of this and I'm relating to Sai Baba. And maybe he's going to say to us, kill your ego. That's the word he used, kill the ego. I want to quote again from